today we are going to sow the first fertiliser of the year. We have 70 acres on our grazing block here and I want to get some urea over all of it if possible. I have the fertiliser store hooked on, I have my GPS installed, I have everything ready to go. The last thing I need to do is do one last check that the fields are actually going to be drivable and passable. They were in good shape yesterday evening whenever I checked, but we had a lot of rain overnight, so hopefully they're still okay. Oh dear. They might not be okay. Farming is never simple, is it? Nothing ever is easy. Okay, the field is a wee bit wet. I'm not gonna lie, it'll leave big tracks for sure. But the fertiliser has to go out. This field is number 1 on the reseed list. So you could argue that even if I do some damage, it's not the end of the world. Oh, I don't know. This is way wetter than I expected, I'm not gonna lie. Let's go check the field I was in yesterday because it was perfect conditions. So unless there was a lot of rain last night, and it's now soaking as well. I might have to change my plans today. Let's go check it out. Let me show you the forecast and make it really clear why I'm even thinking about putting on fertiliser if the fields are still wet. We'll go do that first and then we'll go check the other field. So the decision making process for why we have decided that we absolutely have to sow the fertiliser today is as follows. Today is dry and then it gives rain and rain and rain and rain and rain and rain with a little bit of sunshine and rain 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 and rain. So this is our best chance. Add to that for urea to work effectively and to not lose a lot of the nitrogen to volatilization, you need rain to wash the fertilizer in. And if you look at this map, you'll see that tomorrow we have about 2 mil of rain per hour scheduled for about 2 hours. That will give us about 4 mil of rain. We need about 12 to make sure that we don't lose much of the nitrogen. But later on tomorrow we get more rain, which is 4 to 8 millimeters in the yellow and 2 to 4 an hour in the green. So we will absolutely get our half an inch of rain or 12 mil of rain tomorrow. So it's dry today and it gives rain for the next 2 weeks. So this is our best chance to do it. And there's enough rain coming tomorrow to make sure that we do not lose much of our urea nitrogen. Yeah, this feels actually quite a bit wetter than yesterday evening as well. We must have had a lot of rain overnight. But we're gonna persevere. There's only one way to know for sure, and that's to go and try and spread some fertilizer. I keep calling my fertilizer sower a sower, and people are getting annoyed at me. I should be calling it a spreader. So let's go put a ton of fertilizer into my spreader. I'll set the blades once I have fertilizer in. Apologies that I didn't wash the windows. So the plan is to apply about 120 kilograms of urea per hectare. That would give us around 50 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare, which I think is 60 units an acre. I don't really know. Units an acre confuses me. Can you see if it's closed? I think it is. To be clear, I know this is going to be a mess, okay? So if I show you tracks in the field, I don't want to hear comments being like, it's stupid to sow fertilizer in that sort of conditions, you're destroying the fields. Listen, it's a track every 24 metres. There is no better time to do it. It's not guaranteed to dry up in 2 or 3 weeks. It might dry up in 3 weeks, but it might not. So sometimes in farming, you have to make imperfect decisions. This is one of them decisions, and I would rather have the fertilizer on the grass, growing grass, and have something to eat for my cows in a month's time. So just to set the expectations, this is not going to be amazingly, obviously a smart decision, but on balance, I think it is. I think I have about 35 tonne of urea here on the farm, which was bought last year. I actually lost money on that stuff. I should have just bought it now. I probably lost 35 times £50. What's that? £1,700? That's not that much. Is that right? Yeah, 2,100. About £2,400 I've lost by buying fertilizer early. And I've had to pay interest on that money out of my overdraft, so you can add a bit more onto that. Probably cost me like £3,000 buying some fertilizer in June and some more in October versus just buying it today. So not the best business decision I've ever made. This was an old silage pit from the 70s. It definitely would not take long to fill this nowadays. And this is some of the urea bought in June. So hopefully it's not all hard in the bag. We'll start with 1.2 tonne, and I need to go find a knife. Okay, the sour's definitely closed, so that's good. And it's not stuck in the bag, so also good. Now I have to check the settings on the discs, and for that I actually do use the Amazon app. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty good job of setting your discs. Fertilizer, my favourites, granular urea, add to the spreading procedure. I want 120, is that what I said? Yeah, 120 kilograms a hectare, 24 meters, 14 kilometers an hour. Continue. So we are looking at a shutter of 33.5. It's already set to that. And we want a vein position of 2045, and it is already set to that. So we're good to go. Clearly the last time I sowed with this was urea, which would make sense since I basically only sow urea now. Right, let's go try spreading this fertilizer. I feel like this might be the only sower I do today, but still, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Right, where do I start? Trying to figure out which fields are likely to be driest. People won't see it from the road if I make a total mess, and I can actually get out of if I end up in like a low point of the field. I think I'm going to go down to the small fields towards my house and try them first. We'll go there first. These fields are the most recently reseeded, like reseeded last year, so I really hope they're dry because if I make a mess of them, I'll actually be annoyed because I definitely am not reseeding them anytime soon. Bit of a risky start, and whilst you may think, well surely Andrew, you'll get out and walk through the field before you start. But I mean, I have 1.5 tons of fertilizer, I have to sow it somewhere, so let's just go for it. Believe me, I'm not precious about my fields. The reason why we get our cows out so early in the year is because I'm willing to make a mess, and Worst case, I just reseed the field. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I've nothing to worry about. The fields are going to be fine. I'm actually going to walk through this field, despite what I said 10 seconds ago, just to make sure. I have a bunch of students coming here on Friday to do some little projects down here, so if I do make a mess of the field, they're all going to see it as well. So this is going to make me look really stupid if this goes wrong. But if it goes right, and I'm grazing my cows at the end of March, and no one else has any grass, I'm going to look like a genius. So we're pressing on. Right, I'm going to turn. I don't think I'll get in here. Let's just go for it. Screw this nonsense. Right, I'm in the field. I think we're doing okay. We're just gonna sow, right? We're just gonna sow. What do I have to do? It's been a while. Okay, GPS is on. Paint. Don't need AB line yet. Start the PTO. 540. And open. And we are sowing fertilizer. It's going okay. This is a wet bit right here. It's going okay. We're okay. We're okay. We're gonna be okay. I'll show you the tracks in a couple of minutes. I just need time to just focus on what I'm doing. I need an AB line. And this is a real wet spot down here. Do I avoid it? I think I'm going to avoid it. Yes, I'm going to avoid it. Good choice. That's like a lake in there. Boundary spreader. Sorry you're wobbling everywhere. I need a better camera mount. I haven't thought ahead. So that's our tracks. It's not perfect, but when you're sowing at 24 meters, it's not too bad. This is the wet bit I avoided. You can see why. It's a burst drain. That's the first field finished. Doesn't take long. This is the dry bit. So wherever it's not a wet spot, we're getting away well. But in wet spots, it's not good. You can kind of see my track right there, and then I didn't go into this wet bit here. I just avoided it completely. This field was reseeded last year, I think, so it'll be dry. It'll be no problem to sow it. And this field was reseeded 2 years ago, so it should also be nice and dry. Since I've had to come out to open the gate, I may as well walk into the field. It's not looking good. What the heck? There's like a pond here. Why is that so wet? It's firm enough. It'll sow. This field is soaking. Why is it so wet? There's like a big pond here. It seems to be running off this lane. Must be a spring or something, I don't know. It's another field, needs a few more drains maybe, but it'll have to wait for a while. We're going to keep going, we're going to get stuff sowed. No point in being precious about a few tracks every 24 metres. It's another field finished, and do you know the bit I was standing in that said it was like a pond? Well, the tractor agreed. It is like a pond. That's the only bit of the field to track, to be fair, so it's not too bad. There's actually tons of grass on the grazing fields. Probably a combination of mild winter. Cows were housed slightly earlier than usual last autumn to try to protect the fields. So if we ever do get some dry weather, just take the wire down, there will be the potential. There's no fencer left on this over winter, I don't think so. There will be the potential to get our cows out early this year. So we're going to plan as if we know that it's going to be a real dry end to March. And we're going to prepare for that. And if it's wet, so be it. But if it's dry, we've got our fertilizer out early. We have grass left over that's already there. We should be able to get the cows out and get a really good start to the grazing season. We're going to do the wet field that I said was too wet. We're going to just try it. We're in at least. Oh, it is wet. Oh, this was a mistake. This field is very, very, very wet. Oh dear. Can you see my tracks? It'll be okay. I'm going to reseed it anyway. It's just not going to be pretty. Right, I'm going to finish sowing the rest of these paddocks. I'll catch up with you after I'm finished, let you know how much of the 70 acres I got done. But it's going okay, but not amazing. Right, so the rest of the fertilizer is going to wait until milking time. I'm probably only going to get another 1.5 tons, maybe 2 tons sowed, but I'll do that at 4 o'clock. We're going to go and do 4 loads of slurry now this afternoon. Because our slurry tanks are also full, and like you've seen in the weather forecast, it might rain for another 2 weeks. So we have to try and juggle what we're doing, what decisions we're making. It's been a really, really difficult February, but we got a lot of slurry out yesterday, and if we get these 4 loads out today, that will give us another 2 or 3 weeks slurry storage. So it's better to do this, and I'll get the fertilizer done because I just need myself to do it at milking time. So this might also be a mess, to be honest, because trying to spread slurry at the minute is also an absolute nightmare. Well, at least the field we're going to slurry is dry, so that's something. That's my indicator. Whoops. I mean, I love our Case Puma. It's been a great tractor. But see, when you go from driving it to driving this, it's like, oh, like, the difference is just night and day. It's so handy having that one extra tractor, so that you can just leave the fertilizer sower there for later and just jump in this and start doing slurry. This is the wet field that we sowed earlier, so I'll just show you the tracks from a good vantage point. Now I'm nice and high up. Okay, that looks bad. That is the wet field, right? That is the wettest field by far of all of them that I sowed. So don't judge me. I get it that perfect every single time. So we got ourselves about 2.5 foot of space in this tank yesterday, and we probably need about 2 foot of space in this tank by the end of the day. That's not going to happen, but we'll get as close as we can. Right, I'm going to set the camera down for a couple hours because I just want to focus on doing this job because I'm in a rush. But we're going to do the rest of the fertilizer at milking time, so I'll catch up with you then. Okay, so welcome back. You join me as I try and sow the final field of the day, and it's not going well. I'm going to have to pull out of this. I'm going to do the bits I can, but I'm just going to have to leave bits of it. It's just too wet. The rest of the fields I got away really nicely. Actually, the last 2 fields I've done were the driest of all the fields I've sowed today. But I left this one to last because I knew it would be wet, and it is wet. I'm going to just try and maybe get most of the sower emptied. I'm sure I can get it put on some silage fields tomorrow if I have to leave a little bit. The biggest problem with this field is there's a giant hill, and I'm not willing to spread across the giant hill when I've been slipping sideways on the tiny small hills. So I'm going to try my best to work my way around it and see what I can do. Can you see the giant hill? One of the big problems with this field and why it's so wet is that it has not been drained. It's one of the very few fields left in farm which hasn't had drains repaired. And it means you get some spots which are just extremely wet. And right now I am sliding sideways in like a crab steer slide because it's so slippy on top. I'll be honest, GPS is not much use when you're sowing in these conditions. I have a lot more things to worry about rather than getting the perfect AV line. Try and get you a shot of the worst of the tracks that I left, which are just up there. Maybe you can barely see them. I mean, it's not that bad, but you just don't like to be leaving tracks. Out of fertilizer on the left hand side. It's not great either. Right, that is our grazing block sowed. I had to leave a bit of it. It was just too dangerous on the hills. It's too wet. I have a little tiny bit left in the sower, but I'm going to just put that into a slurry tank. No, I have nowhere else to go with it, so that's where it's going to end up. We did get everything covered, so 70 acres, 100 kilograms per hectare of urea. It's good to get that done. Most places I haven't left any bad tracks, so they look like that or behind me. this field here, the hill. You can't really see it, but there's no tracks in that field at all. But there is some spots which got badly tracked. This is probably the clearest example of that. So a bit hit and miss. All in all, definitely a good decision to get fertilizer out. It's one of them things where if you can do it, sometimes in farming you just have to make do and get on with it, even if you make a little bit of a mess. Reality is, if it rains for another 2 or 3 weeks, it's getting very, very late for fertilizer. Hopefully that won't happen, hopefully it will dry up, but you just never know. So I took the decision I did. I've got my urea on my grazing block. I think it'll pay off. I think it'll pay off. And if it doesn't, I'll be honest and I'll admit it, okay? Any of the big tracks, when I'm sowing it in the springtime and it's dry, I'll just run over it with the tractor. You'll never see them. It'll be fine, okay? I'm convincing myself as much as I'm trying to convince you. But thank you for watching this week. Today was kind of a hectic day. Sorry if this video is a muddled mess. Like, I am sure that it is going to be a muddled mess. Well, that kind of sums up my day. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, give me a like. Subscribe if you really enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, comments, criticisms, which I'm sure there might be plenty from this video, stick them down below. I'll try my best to reply.